Morning, everyone, and welcome to the Good Morning Education Show. My name is Rotimi Itaya, and this is another Wednesday, and it's great to be here. And we're going to be having a great time. Obviously, on the Good Morning Education Show, you can catch us Mondays to Fridays, and Mondays to Fridays, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. And then, of course, Saturdays at 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Sundays for the weekend special, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. And of course, we are streaming from Lagos, Nigeria to West Africa, to Africa and the entire world. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Good Morning Education Show. And on the show, we have from time to time issues that we try to tackle, subject matters and borders about around the world of education, really. And today will not be different. We're going to be starting with the headline. But before then, we have our analysts already on standby who give I hope you can all hear. Good morning, Rhoda. How
Oh,
are
yeah,
you today, Rhoda?
that's a Rhodas.
You said?
I was wondering if there's some two Rhodas.
Oh, yes.
Interesting. If I can of the other.
Okay, so how are you today?
Doing well. Grateful for making it this morning and for what
Yes,
or education, our conversation
yeah,
today.
absolutely, absolutely correct. And so we are live, and I'd like to start with the headline news. We have the very first headline, and it starts to talk about news coming from the World Teachers Day, still in that spirit of celebration. Um, GTC promises free professional training for educators. Can you hear me, Rhoda?
Yes, I can. Yes. And so this is good, really. I mean, I think this all happened in the radio show,
Yes, yes,
and GCC was present and
yeah,
offered free training that is worth, I think, 15,000 naira. And yeah, and it's all inclusive. And GCC uses this as a great opportunity to talk about, in this particular article, talk about all the offerings that they have. And particular of particular interest is in the thinking school. I do think that that particular model of training is something a lot of teachers still need, regardless of the status of the school. I find that a number of schools are still struggling with understanding what really is present day education and what it should look like. Forget the name and the status of the school. A lot of schools are still rather behind. And I imagine that a thinking school training is certainly is certainly one thing that would help teachers have a specific set of not just practices and policies, but a clear mindset shift that will be helpful. And I see a lot of schools, big and small, struggling with what methodology is or what's instructional methodology should be happening in our classroom or in today's classrooms. So yeah, I thought that was a well, it's a nice, good gift, and of course to celebrate teachers and the work that we do and the value that we bring to the table. It was such a great theme, wasn't it, Dave, for this year, the World Teachers Day. It's really, I love the theme. How about you?
Yeah, well, I think it's quite reflective. I hope people do understand what it means to lead in crisis.
Yeah,
Um,
interesting.
it's because I had the privilege of sharing that day with some teachers, and
Mm,
I had to make them understand that for you to lead in crisis, it also typifies that there is a fight you must have to fight. And a lot of people were wondering, why should teachers fight? And
mm,
I tried to make them understand the fight is not really, you're talking about one person giving a punch to another, but
mm,
you need to fight for faith. That's
mm.
FATE.
That's right.
Um, because for us to lead in crisis, and you look at the histories, you look at history books, you look at the history of teachers and education, especially even in the country. We've had a very good beginning. Somehow we've had people
Mm,
from India and China, you know, come into our space, especially Indians,
yes.
who were teachers. We've had the seasons of Ghanaians, and really our education system kind of displayed measure of depth, many years ago. So
Mm,
the thing is, faith itself is like a white canvas, and teachers need to understand that their job is to ensure that they make their writings or paintings on that canvas.
yeah.
And until we understand that, we will just be looking out to follow, and we are looking at the theme this year as leading in crisis, reimagining the future, you know. So pretty much that was what I was trying to get them to see. And I actually wore boxing gloves to that speaking engagement.
I imagine I missed that one because I just imagine yeah, and you make a very strong point. Let's expect reimagining the future coming from a crisis, and really because that crisis, COVID-19 pandemic, really taught us about brought out a lot. It forced down people to rethink or reimagine what really education is, and yeah, I missed that. So, do you have a recording?
I think the school did. I'll pretty much ask to
Yeah,
find
I think
out.
it's definitely something that we should share out widely in this month for teachers. I think definitely we should do that.
Yeah.
Okay, great
Yes.
topic, great headline.
Okay, so the next headline has to do with technology and it's talking about Ensign. Sorry about that. Um, Ensign technology will solve out of school problem.
Isn't
And this,
isn't that a no-brainer? From security to content, right? From the get-go, from entry and exit of the school, physical
yeah,
entry and exit of the school,
yeah,
to um, another on virtual entry and exit of the school, to content. To it's I think the is it was she the president of the American University of Nigeria? She is the one speaking here and really talking about the opportunities that technology presents in not only tracking students' population and protecting them physically in the school premises. She argued for the fact that she argued that what people, I mean, schools didn't need to shut down due to security um, problems or nightmares. That schools
yeah,
should actually be the protected places, a place of protection. And so what should have happened in education was to fortify the school premises with technology that will protect children. Whether it's in tracking, again, that this is something that I think that in Nigeria, in our context here, we haven't done that well. How, especially for public education and or low resource context. Of course, affordability is always a concern here, but it's asking ourselves, where do we put our resources to, and how smart are we with our solutions? How can a child come to school and there is no clocking? Like, you can't, there aren't systems to be able to say this child is in school. I'm not in nowhere. So someone should be able to track that. That's what the likes of New Globe, Pre-finally bridge has done really well. You know, every child comes into school, you know the child is in school. There's a system that can tell the time stamp in which that child came to school. And if the child is not in school, you are know that the child is not in school, and you can easily say these are the folks that were in school today. This is the time the child marked attendance in the morning, marked attendance in the afternoon, and then you can track. And then the physical environment as well, the CCTVs. There's a lot technology can do, and that's for security, and also in content access to content knowledge. You know, where how much have we been committed to taking education to children wherever they are? So she makes a strong case for that, and I think everybody would agree.
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, I think that you've just captured it totally, and I believe um, things will work out. So let's move straight to this another headline that says QC principals, that's Queen's College, task teachers on professionalism. I know this is something you're big on. Over to you, Rhoda.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I mean, can we even overstate the fact that professionalism is is something that we can't afford to stop talking about. Like that, it's supposed to be at the forefront of every conversation. So, for example, you're talking about technology, so you should talk about professionalism. Talking about etiquette, professionalism. You're speaking content knowledge, professionalism. You're speaking students classroom management, professionalism. It's all embedded. Like for every moment, a teacher has to do anything and as part of policy implementation or practice. Professionalism is key. So I definitely think that it's a conversation that continue should always be had and should be set as a reminder for everyone. I don't know. I mean, when you look at some of the simple things that happen, sometimes we say, oh, even in simple communications. I don't know if you saw this viral. Well, I think it was a post that was put in a concerned parents and educators Facebook group, where a lot of educators are and parents, and there was this communication exchange between a school leader and a parent, and I was just honestly taken aback. I couldn't I was unable to leave a comment that said beyond the language that was just from the way the school leader constructed their sentences. I couldn't go past it, to the point of just communicating so harshly or brashly to the parent. I was just shocked. So imagine that kind of, minimal, what you can call minimum standard of professionalism, that it doesn't even exist. We still have a long way.
I agree with you. We have a very long way. And while you were speaking, Waithera joined us in the studio.
Hey,
Waithera,
with Sarah, it's been a while. How are you? Welcome.
Thank you. How are you?
Well, I wonder who should say welcome. Maybe it's you to me.
Yeah, I was here yesterday, so welcome.
Hey, with Sarah, how have you been? How is Kenya?
Kenya is good.
That's great.
Rhoda, you need to be updated.
Ooh, tell me. I need to be updated. Behind the
Yeah,
scenes, BTS.
BTS.
Oh,
It's good to be here.
All right, thank you so much. So we're moving straight to the next headline, and this is on still in Lagos. Unilag Servicom unit honors exceptional staff. Of course, we know Servicom what it stands for. It's pretty much on service, So, Rhoda, do you have anything to say on this?
well, always good to identify an exceptional staff for the particular, for whatever reason it is. Um, I'm not sure I have any special, I don't know, understanding or thinking or recommendation from what it was, but I think always good to celebrate his staff. I think what's more important for me is what that staff is being celebrated for, and how that particular um, servitude from the staff can become systemic, that helps others to build or grow their, in this case, professionalism or skill or heart for whatever they're being celebrated for. So I'm looking forward to a lot more of you know celebrate, or a lot more of high order skills that some staff, particular staff in different various organizations are exhibiting, and how those can become systemic. But yeah, good, good.
Okay. So let's move on to the next headline. And this is on education sector reforms. My priority says Edu Commissioner. I'm sure
My
there's no
person.
that you to say something of this.
Oh my goodness. Yes, this is Dr. Joan Oviewe, current Commissioner of Education, Edo State, former SUBEB chairman of Edo State, the champion of the Edo Best reform that took place, that started actively in 2018. This lady is a visionary. She's feisty. She's ready. She's bold. She's innovative, and I know that it's been tough for her in particular, not to to go through systems that have already been designed to, almost the default designed to fail. And one of the things that Obaseki, the governor, had tried to always communicate every time was, look, I come from a state where we led on academic on academic milestones. And I watched the same state go down the drain to become a shadow of itself, where we have now become the nation, well, like the poster child for, what it is, poster child for external prostitution and things like that. And so it's pretty much a redefining of what that state is, and where the literacy and the literacy gaps were, and just trying to rewrite the decline. And the goal right now is a whole sector reform, right from the early childhood education all the way to university, with a key focus on building entrepreneurship skills at the end of the day, entrepreneurship and life skills. So I think with the Edo-Best reforms that have happened, and going into another phase of that particular reform with this new post, new appointment, I think this is somebody you'd say is around peg in a square, in a round hole. How do you say it? And I'm looking forward to all the things that they can achieve. There's been an example. World Bank and international community is really commending their efforts, and gaps are being closed. Accountability systems have already been built in, and so the sky is really just the limit. And let's see how she can actually push the envelope to do a lot more, because there's still a lot more to do.
Fantastic. And I think we need individuals who really have a heart, but also have the might to push through the mission or agenda ahead of them, and that's very important. So let's have the last headline, which is technology. Lagos SUBEB sensitizes contractors on e-procurement.
You see, interestingly, I was at the SUBEB office on this day, but not of course, not invited to this room. I think it's a step in it. The current SUBEB chairman is someone who is very big on technology and using technology to drive change and innovation. And it's something, one of his main agenda to digitize the SUBEB, Lagos SUBEB. I think this is one of the things that he's chosen to do, and the fact that is an open gesture, albeit, I mean, I'm using gesture loosely, to invite everybody. And I hope he does pull through with it for a level of transparency. One thing I think in my experience with them is that the chairman himself, again, I don't know, let me be quiet on that part. But there's a lot of transparency from this particular leader's end. wants a lot of things to be open. I hope he's allowed. I hope he's supported. He has a strong team as well. And let's see how much this wave of leadership, albeit in small measures in Lagos State, in Edo State, and a couple of other states that are coming. Let's see what can happen. But in the procurement process, I think it's again technology coming up to help support systems to kill if anything, if it's going to build transparency, accountability, if it's going to in a way curb corruption, which has been the biggest challenge that we have, I'd say why not? Let's hope that they go through it in honesty and integrity.
Absolutely. And also, it also demonstrates pushing for a culture where if we're talking about technology, then we should begin to integrate it into almost everything that we find in our processes. So that's quite important. All right. We're going straight to the conversation of the day. I'm sure you've seen our topic, Rhoda.
I'm waiting to hear your context and background to the topic.
I thought you would have you would have done the honors. So we're talking about what's the pressure, and it's actually something that you can address from both sides, or well, from different aspects, you know. And I believe that it just speaks to us questioning our norms and questioning even our change or changes, as the case may be. You know, what's the pressure? Why do we do what we do, or why aren't we doing what we should do? You know, sometimes you get to the corridors of conversation where you're talking about some things and people are like, you don't understand. And there's so much excuse of pressure for people not doing what they need to do. How can we translate, or how can we, turn this tide around? I want to hear your thoughts. That's really what's the pressure about.
Okay, so it's really a broad area that you've thrown us at, that we're throwing out today. I mean, so if I think of pressure from, you know, I think of it as okay. So when the Bible says that God will bless you, good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, and the fact that the way that it was described biblically, please pardon me because I just use my Christian background as an analogy, but I'm coming somewhere. And as a matter of sometimes when the blessings want to come to you, it really and it really comes in with pressure. It really comes with a lot coming once at you. But then if I think of pressure from also the fact that we need to really just activate quite rather with a sense of urgency the solutions that work for us in our context, then what's the pressure? The pressure is that education cannot wait. That is the pressure. It cannot wait. It cannot wait for us to have everything perfect. It cannot wait for us to it cannot wait because every day a child receives poor education or substandard in this case, in other cases, education. Every day a teacher is unsupported. Every day a head teacher does not have the materials that they need to support her school as a school leader. Every day a material is not in the classroom. Every day a classroom is uncomfortable. Every day a roof is broken, and because of the weather, children can't learn. Every day somebody is waiting to commission a classroom, and the children are, because the classroom is not commissioned, the children are sitting outside under a tree to learn. Every day um somebody like diverts funds. Every day we don't think through innovative financing to support education because we're waiting for matching funds from some international organization. Every day, our gaps increase. Every day, our problems are heightened. Dr. Obi Ezekwesili 10 years ago said in a session that she was giving, if we didn't, if we don't at the time, this was 10 years ago, if we don't do something actively now about transforming education, that will be raising, in 10 years, we will have raised creative criminals. And Rotimi, that is a direct um, indictment on how we have failed education and why that pressure should be like a canister that is close to fire and should be it should be in flames. And that's what you're seeing now, that even our educated populace is so distrusting of our system, so distrusting that kidnapping is a thing. We've raised educated people who cannot see how they can grow within their own country. And so they're becoming more and more creative criminals. So education can't wait because we need to raise this population. This population needs to change. This population's mindset needs to shift. This population's skill set needs to shift. It's a shifting. We're going beyond even change, but a shift. So that's why I'll stop.
Thank you so much. I think KK joined us and then the network took her out. So let's hear from Waifera. What's the pressure? We're talking about the pressure of the pressure that people tend to have, pressure, like Rhoda said, and I like the way Rhoda kind of pointed out a particular perspective. You know, you can't say that you have something great without pressure. Pressure sometimes is perceived as evil and stress, but then sometimes pressure is actually, it's actually the indicator or the trigger for development cases. So let's hear from you what you'd like to say on this.
I totally agree with what Rhoda has said. There's a process that a butterfly goes through. It's called chrysalis, where it's under pressure. Like if you got the butterfly out of the cocoon before it, it struggled on its own, then, before it goes through that pressure on its own, then the butterfly will not fly. And so I totally agree that pressure is necessary at times just to birth what is needed. I mean, even birth really, it's about pressure. So pressure is needed to birth things, whether it's pressure on self or pressure on a system. And pressure could look like different things. Pressure could look like having a forcing function that if something is not done by a certain date, then there's something else kicks in. So pressure could take different forms. It doesn't have to be external. It could be just a forcing function. Like if, like how we've been talking about the planet and climate change. If we don't fix it by a certain year, then we are not doing ourselves any good. So that is also pressure really. So, just to reiterate that pressure is good, and pressure is for good.
All right, thank you so much. And so let's ask another question. And this time around, I'm going to ask us to, take this perspective into consideration. Now, we're talking about, we know the power of pressure groups, right? We know the power of advocacy, and sometimes we know the power of activism. So if we were to push for a kind of meaningful pressure, what should characterize that? And I want Rhoda to start with the answer to that, especially for the change in the education sphere or development of schools. Rhoda, you're muted.
Mute.
Are you there, Rhoda? Oops. Okay, Waithera, do you want to take that up?
Could you kindly take it again? Sorry, I missed some parts.
So we're talking about pressure now.
Yeah.
And we're saying that how do we get to articulate the right kind of pressure to society, to regulators, to government? What should characterize that?
Oh, wow. Let me think about it.
Okay, so while you were saying you think about it, Olusola Olumide joined us. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Ochimi, who is also the line. I can't say the name. Good morning to our tribe members. And it's nice to be here once again. Oh, Waitara. Oh, happy new month.
Happy new month.
Quite an age. Nice to have you here once again.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so we're speaking on the topic, what's the pressure? And I was asking a question, and Waithara is still thinking about the answer to that question. And pretty much the question seems to address the issue of what exactly should articulate, or how do we, express the pressure for what do we call it now? The pressure to stakeholders, as it were. How do we get to articulate that?
Thank you. Everybody at one point or the other comes under pressure, only that the magnitude of the pressure differs from one person to the other, and it differs from one event to the other. Depending on what is played out, at times it could be pressure to deliver on your job. It could be pressure to meet up. At times, as an educator, pressure could come from your superior. As a school, pressure could come from the parents. Pressure could come from the society. In fact, competition poses a sort of pressure on a school. However, we should have what it takes, or we should be able to compose ourselves so that things doesn't get out of hand. That you are under pressure, if you don't manage the situation, you discover that you are going to, mistakes could become serious, almost from one mistake to the other, from one mistake to the other, from one mistake to the other, and that worsens the situation. So sit down, analyze the issue at hand, and probably if you need to make consultation with people you know can be of help. And at times, what you are asked to do, you don't even have clarity as to what is expected of you. So ask question. Ma, sir, this thing you told me to do, what exactly did you mean? Is it like this, like this, like that? The person will say, no, that's not what I mean. This is what I mean. Then for you to assume what you're asked to do, which is a wrong assumption, only for you to have put in your strength, effort, and whatever, only to do the wrong thing. So by the time you come back, and the person who gave you the assignment begins to unleash whatever on you, it will aggravate your pressure. And because pressure is more or less of a psychological thing, our shock absorber differs. The way we soak it in, the way we can contain, the way we can manage things. Some people will break down completely under pressure. Why some other people, it gives them the opportunity to be on their toes. Yes, they're under pressure, but they know they need to work more. They need to probably stay up overnight to get the work done. So our reaction to pressure differs from one person to the other and the situation at hand. And that's why somebody can be inside the AC and yet is sweating. The pressure can be that serious. So for me, I would think it's better to analyze what is at hand. Then have this self-talk. If you don't get it done, it will only aggravate the problem. Sit down, relax. If you need to take a cold water, take a cold water. If you need to relax, relax. If you need to sit under a fan or AC, do. And give yourself a break of 5-10 minutes in order to think through as to what is expected of you. But we can't rule out being under pressure. This is life. And the situation happens. Demand comes on us from individual to family to school, even to society. Pressure is part of life. We just must know how to handle it and how to navigate through. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's a different twist, and I like that. I think Rhoda is back, and I believe Rhoda would like to answer the
Yeah,
question.
I'm sorry about that. I think it was just a combination of stuff. But I definitely do like what the media said, and it kind of like brings to mind the structure that should be created or a system that should be created to for pressure, pressure in itself being a part of life, as he alluded, and not something that we should be scared of, or not something that we should run away from, but something that we should think through as and figure out a method for handling pressure. There's many reasons why pressure comes. Sometimes it is even, I mean, those of us who have worked with a large number of colleagues, there are various kinds of people and various kinds of systems. So you can there are some people, it's almost like you've got to nudge them to do anything. You know that they're good at their stuff, but they need to be nudged. And that just is a character of a lot of the variety of human behavior. And so the pressure has its place. And so now pressure just needs to be totally organized. And one of the things that he alluded to is how do we get to organize ourselves and to handle pressure? For me, one of the things I know that has worked is really just building out a work plan and a tracking mechanism, keeping yourself an accountability mechanism for people to handle pressure, because it doesn't need to lead to the point of being pressurized, right? Just like the way I said, education cannot wait. Well, why it cannot wait is because it was left manhandled. It was left in the hands of people who were not meant to have any business dealing with education. And in that case, we now feel the pressure, and that's from a national context, from a national and state context, but from even just private lives, our businesses, our schools, our career path. Some people feel really pressurized about where they are in their lives, and they feel, look, I'm not where I need to be. But then there are things that you need to look inward to say to yourself, what did I do to get myself to this point? And so I think pressure is good. I just think that we should build accountability systems. And one of the ways to do that is just, using a strong work plan, having strong policies that guide the way things should work. What should we have? What should be happening in quarter one? Keep yourselves accountable for quarter one. Make sure that those quarter one goals and priorities are completely fleshed out like A, B, C, D. Sometimes when I'm writing out my priorities, if I was going to send 4 emails, I will actually write send for email 1 to Rotimi, put the date. Send email 2 to Lumide, put the date. Put the deadline for the week, put a ticking box to say whether I've done it or not, and then keep myself accountable by going to that work plan. So sometimes these are things for mitigating pressure. And then in another context, pressure groups. The reason why a lot of things, look, if you think about Occupy Nigeria and NSAS, these are pressure groups really advocating advocating for the right things to be done. So it's just, again, how do we keep ourselves accountable, and how do you build those systems and policies that help to mitigate the adverse effects of pressure? But pressure is itself not bad.
Thank you so much. And I want us to, I would like to stress in on one of the things that you both said. If I'm correct, it means that pressure can be a tool, especially from what Rhoda said. And if that's the case, I like Waithera to, touch on that. How can we leverage pressure as a tool? Waithera, over to you.
Thank you. Pressure as a tool. I think, as I had said earlier about the butterfly and the pressure it has to go through, I think the illustration is very apt, because without the pressure, then the butterfly will not be able to produce the necessary enzymes in order for its wings to be strong enough to fly. And so, same thing as for human beings. When there's pressure to do something, when, say, let's use the example of a promise by government to do something. So the government promises that by 31st October, it will have launched something. Then, and everyone knows, then that puts pressure to do whatever you have said you will do, when it is people of integrity who are involved. Because then you have a promise to deliver. And so the pressure drives you, like, even internally, there's something that's happening internally when there's a deadline, because it's like all the forces within you they're all geared towards that. It's like a destination, 31st October. And so all the systems are headed towards 31st October. We need to launch this, we need to do this. So in that sense, pressure is a tool for delivery. If used correctly, it allows for things to be done in good time, and it gives motivation for the person who's supposed to do it, because you're supposed to do it by then, and then it's done, or at least the next process begins. So that's what I would say about that.
Thank you so much. And I don't know if Olushola has anything to add to that.
Yes, pressure has its advantages. For me, number one thing is that pressure helps you to trap procrastination. Procrastination could be very funny. It's like a porcupine that is wearing thorns. It takes something like pressure. For me as a person, I have realized something, that if I don't do a particular thing, it's not because I can't do it. It's because I chose not to do it. Then that brings to fore the issue of the mind. I think as human beings, our mind drives us. I take, for example, I return from office maybe around 7, so tired and worn out. Then I realize that there is something I need to do. Maybe work on the system form, do my writing or some other stuff. Then after taking dinner, maybe by 9, I sit up on my laptop. Even though I was tired coming in, I discovered that I may be there till 2, 3 a.m. and I'm still going to the office in the morning. And there are times I eat the bed by 8 o'clock and I won't wake up until 7 a.m. So it is not, it's me. So, hello? Hello? Can you hear me? Okay, good. So once, and that a research has shown that our mind has a way of trapping our brain, especially when you have the notion that there is still time. There is still time. So the mind begins to play on the brain to make you feel, I beg, leave that thing. There is still so much time. It's like a student preparing for exam at the beginning of the term or session or the semester. You read, then you drop the book. You are like, did I even gain anything? It's like you didn't gain. Meanwhile, you've read 3, 4, 5 pages. You say, I didn't gain anything, no. But sincerely, you have gained something. Only that you feel that the assimilation was low, maybe. But by the time it is 1 week to the exam, you go back to that same book, you will discover that those ones you have read have been stored up. You are not seeing that text for the first time. And it is seeing your assimilation by the time you are doing your final revision. And the way your muscle, your body will compose itself in preparation for this exam will be far, far different from when the semester started, when it was like a laissez-faire kind of reading. So I feel pressure is good. It helps us to achieve. It helps us to trap procrastination. It moves us on. If there is no pressure, we'll just be like Adesika. We'll not do things we need to do. Just like the Rhoda said, pressure groups. This pressure group may not carry gun. They are not even fighting. But because they are making demands on the government, and that is open to everybody, the people that are supposed to work. That brings to mind the case of Safety Chick when she was applying for a transcript. By the time the institution saw themselves on the Twitter, they knew they needed to work. She didn't need to fight them. She didn't need to verbally attack them. Or she wouldn't even need to go to the front of the school and be making noise. But by the time they saw themselves on air, they said, I beg, we need to do something. So pressure is good. It's part of life. It's only that it should be commensurate and we should handle it appropriately. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm going to ask this last question, which I like both Waithera and you to tackle. And that comes to the issue of how to self-regulate. We've seen that pressure has its advantage. We've seen that pressure can be a tool. We've seen the outcome in some cases. How do we self-regulate as a system or as a people, as professionals, when it comes to pressure? Waithera first, then Olumide next.
Thank you for that question. I think it's a very important question because as much as pressure has its advantages, it can also be detrimental. So I'm thinking of a pressure cooker. Yeah, I'm thinking of a pressure cooker.
When you talk about pressure cooker, we remember someone trying to cook beans. There's beans, pottage, and porridge.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you love beans, but that's the first reminder of the pressure.
I've actually been trying to figure out where I'm going to get one, so I guess that's why the thought came to mind. So, so a pressure cooker. The reason why the beans will cook inside is because there's a lot of pressure within that makes them cook faster than if there was no pressure. So again, I feel like it's a very good summary of what we have discussed so far for pressure as a tool. But then again, when you want to get your beans out, you can't afford to just, remove the lid normally because you will get hurt. And so there has to be a way of releasing the pressure slowly so that everything ends up safe and everything is in order and you get your beans or whatever cereal it is in good condition. So just in the same way, we can use pressure for good, but we must be wary of its effects in terms of working from a place of pressure. Puts a demand on your system in a way that is not normal, really. In the sense of if you have a target. Let me use a good example. Kipchoge Keino, my countryman, a sports person running the marathon. Yeah, I mean, he can't run the marathon every day. He can practice every day, but he can't run the marathon every day because it takes a toll on you. And so it's pressure in small doses is good because it it jumpstarts you, it helps to kill procrastination, and you're able to do the thing that you need to do. But if it is a sustained practice, behavior, if it's how you live, if it has become the lifestyle, then it opens us up to disease, because we are living a life that is not in ease. So I would say about finding ways to depressurize. I don't know whether that's a word, but we have to be intentional about finding ways to be in spaces without pressure. So whether it's taking time out to rest, blocking out portions of time when there's nothing to do, when it's blank, just to ensure that there's an interlude between pressure and more pressure, so that the body is resting and the body is operating also from a place of rest, and it's not just on that high, like almost emergency mode all the time, because that exposes us to disease as well.
Thank you so much for that. Olusola, your thoughts and then wrap.
Thank you. I want to sandwich pressure between self-indulgence and self-care. It's like a spectrum, self-indulgence on one hand, pressure in the middle, self-care at the other end. As much as commensurate pressure helps you to take care of self-indulgence, you need self-care in order to take care of pressure. If it is no longer commensurate, it can lead to mental health illness. And as a result, we need to be very, very careful. If care is not taken, anxiety will result, which is a mental health disorder. Yes, it's good. We are trying to get something done. However, you need to be alive to give life. If you are always in the mood of pressure, it will affect the mind. In fact, it can lead to psychiatric issue. So for me, why pressure is helping you to cure the problem of self-indulgence, self-care is meant to cure the problem of overpressure. So take time off, relax, unwind, unlearn. At times, you just put whatever, put it aside. You just want to do something fresh. It could be just to play. At least let your mind be off that job for a while, because that thing is beginning to eat the person up. You couldn't sleep. And because you are like, oh, deadline. Even in your dream, you are hearing deadline there. And that person may become unsound in his mind. And it's also a lesson for superior on how to drive subordinates. You don't want to drive your subordinate mad to the point that once they hear the sound of your voice, even in their sleep, they wake up because of the way you drive them up and down. Yes, you want them to achieve, but please, superior administrator, preserve the humanity of the people working with you. They are not beasts of burden. They have their own mind. They have their own life. They need to think. When somebody gets home and they are trying to give him food, he's thinking, he's lost in thought, and the children, the wife say, hello, daddy. Oh, I'm sorry. It's because of the carryover of the pressure from the office. So to cure it, I think self-care we do, where we take care of ourselves, eat good meals, sleep well. You don't even want to think. Vacation comes in. That's why some people will tell you, I won't attend to my mail because I'm not going to be around in the office from so time to so time. So there may be delay in response. They don't just want to do anything as far as the office is concerned. They want to go and rest. They are on vacation and they want to concentrate on that vacation, to play, to eat, to sleep, to go around, tourism and whatever. When they resume, they will come back and face it. But now that they are away, they want to be away, spirit, soul, and body. And I think that will help. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That's so profound and very useful to those of us who are going to catch the replay. You need to find that it's not just one-sided when we talk about what's the pressure. It's important that we find out, and it's important that we take care of things as much as we can. I'm afraid this is where we have to stop today, and we will be here tomorrow, God willing, Thursday. I mean, when I said Thursday, yeah,
Thursday.
the 14th of October 2021. We will be here and we having another interesting conversation that will just drive development for ourselves, for our team, for our organizations, for our sector, for our nation. And I'd like to thank Waithera, who was putting on a video after the end of the show. She was under pressure. She had to put on a camera. And thank you, Olushola Olumide. Thank you, Rhoda, for saving the day, for coming in. That's so important for us. And of course, thank you to all our listeners and viewers, our tribe members, for joining us. This is the Good Morning Education Show, and we are signing off at the count of 2. 1, 2.
It's always a great morning on the Good Morning Education Show.
Bye.
Bye.